So today's webinar is called The Face of Invisible Disability. All right. For those of you who would like to put your cameras on, you can do so, but just note that we are streaming live. So just in case you feel a little shy. All right, stand by, guys. Just one sec. I don't know why I feel nervous, but I feel nervous. I've done this so many times, but I'm feeling a bit nervous, so just bear with me. Stand by. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us as we commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I'm your host, Reeanna Harrilal, President and founder of the Voice of Lupus Foundation and United Peace Ambassador to this country. Now, today is not just a date on the calendar. It is a moment of recognition, a moment of visibility, a moment of truth. Today, we are reminded that disability is not always visible and that many of the most painful battles are the ones the world cannot see. So on behalf of the Voice of Lupus Foundation, we stand in solidarity with every individual living with visible and invisible disabilities. We particularly lift our voices for those living with lupus and other autoimmune diseases, conditions that change lives quietly, painfully, and often without understanding from society. You know, lupus is not just a diagnosis, it's a reality you wake up to. It is uncertainty in your body. It is pain that cannot always be explained. And it is endurance that cannot always be applauded. And yet so many continue silently strong. Today, we will not just hear facts, we will hear truth wrapped in testimonies from individuals living with invisible diseases. We are honored to have a few courageous warriors with us today, not defined by their illness per se, but shaped by their strength, resilience, and faith. Their stories matter, their pain matters, and today they are seen. Let us listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts. Today, we say clearly and without apology, not all disabilities can be seen, and not all pain announces itself. Some people move through life bearing wounds no one can measure. Some wake up each morning not knowing what their bodies will allow them to do on that given day. Some smile in public while battling an unseen illness in private. And among them are those living with lupus and other autoimmune diseases. Lupus is not rare pain. It is not imagined suffering. And it is not just feeling tired. Lupus is a life-altering autoimmune disease where the body mistakenly attacks itself. Organs are involved, joints are involved, the skin is involved, the brain is involved. It is fatigue so deep it steals your breath, pain that reshapes daily living, and of course, we cannot forget flares, flares that can arrive without warning. And because lupus and other autoimmune diseases does not wear a visible uniform, too often it is misunderstood, minimized, or simply dismissed. That is why today matters. Today is all about visibility. Visibility for that man or woman who looks fine but is fighting inflammation every hour. It's for the man who keeps working despite overwhelming tiredness, fatigue, and pain. It's for the child whose energy disappears without explanation. It's for those caretakers who love relentlessly without recognition. Invisible illness does not mean invisible impact. Disability does not always come with a wheelchair, a cast, or a cane. Sometimes it comes in the form of chronic pain, organ failure, flare ups, brain fog, and oh, yes, emotional exhaustion. And today we say your suffering is real. Your story matters. Your life has value. At the Voice of Lupus Foundation, we believe awareness is not simply about education. It's about dignity. It's about inclusion. It is about ensuring persons with invisible illnesses are not excluded from opportunities, employment, empathy, care, simply because they do not look sick enough. Today, we also want to call for policy that protects, systems that support, and communities that respond with compassion rather than doubting whether the person is ill or not. Because awareness alone is really not enough. We need access, we need understanding. Yes, we need research, we need the medications, we also need action. So let us make space for the quiet battles. Let us learn to listen without judgment. Let us become advocates for the unheard. And above all, let us build a world where disability, visible or invisible, is met with respect, not resistance. So today I say we honor every person living with lupus and other autoimmune diseases. Every person waking up to a fight the world cannot see. For every person battling one form of an autoimmune disease or not. You are not weak. You are not lazy. You are not imagining your pain. You are brave. And today we see you. So I'm going to pause because there are so many battling silently. And today we have four beautiful people who are more than what they have been through. And I would like to first, well, I guess before we begin our discussion, I want to ask you, our audience, to hold space today. Space for honesty, space for vulnerability, and yes, space for truth. This is not a conversation to feel sorry for anyone. It is a conversation for understanding. We will begin by allowing each of our guests to introduce themselves, not as patients, but as people. So for those just meeting you today, I would like to ask Alyssa. Alyssa, unmute your mic. Who are you beyond your diagnosis?
Hi. Um, who am I beyond lupus right now? Um, I am a daughter, a caretaker for my mother. I'm employed. What can I say? I can tell you what I like to do. Given my diagnosis with lupus, I can still enjoy life. So I still have a social life, a job. I'm still able to walk and use my limbs. Given the flares, as you would have mentioned, I'm still able to operate on a daily, and it's not, what to say it, that I'm feeling well, is that I can act so good under pressure like having a flare or not, I still have to go through the day, attend work. I like to bake in my free time when I'm not tired. But yeah, that's, yeah, you'll have to ask me to go in more detail.
So when you hear the phrase invisible disability, what does it personally mean to you?
Invisible. Hmm. Basically, they can't see what's happening to me internally. But to stray a little bit from the question, it isn't visible right now in terms of my flares, but they don't know why. So in terms of invisible, people judge, people question. Some might be sensitive and some might be insensitive. So I could show you, like, for instance, at the side, but what people don't see is there's lesions lupus patients get under their legs, on their hands, even under their breasts, um, joint pain, arthritis. So lots of people have arthritis. Look, the weather is really cold, or warm clothes. They can't see what or how it affects you because it might affect you differently from me. Pain looks different in all ways, all fashion. It don't come with a warning sign, you know, it just happen.
Describe what a normal day looks like for you, not as people imagine it, but as it really is. What's your reality?
My alarm comes on, I get up, I hate, and I have to literally tell myself like 5 times, all right, Alice, I gotta get up now, you know. I know you're tired. I pray for the strength. I get up, I organize myself. I say, okay, I have to put on shoes now, clothes now. You have to actually talk to yourself to do each thing step by step because, you know, you could give up. You could not put on clothes because it's uncomfortable, but you have to do it. So I put on clothes today. I went to work in the rain. And when you reach on work now, for people that are employed, that are still able to be employed, they have to push themselves. But I just say my view in my job, they understand. They have empathy for me. So I can go and I can take my time. I don't have like a set amount of work to get done. So I will take my time and I'll do what I have to do. Sometimes I'll pause for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but I constantly have to tell myself, all right, Alyssa, take your time. You're almost there. And that's just how the day does go for me. And I reach home, I sit down, I unwind, I decompress. Sometimes after elevate my foot because remember I own the foot whole day. Um, as I said, I'm a caretaker for my mother. So if I don't have to cook or wash or clean anything, I just relax, you know? So,
And as you talk about your mom was also diagnosed with lupus and she's been in recovery. She suffered a stroke and she's been she's been on her way to recovery. But it's a process that has been long and hard. And, we just want to commend you for the strength and resilience that you have, Alyssa. I mean, you are just one of those patients that I look forward to looking at your status and just your nature of just, being real, authentic, and, just not be, you're just unapologetic and you don't apologize for being you, and you're not ashamed to share with the world what you go through, so I am so glad that you were able to just make it here to just shed a light into what you go through. I just want to call in Tanisha to the chat. Tanisha, I will ask you the first question for those meeting you today. Who are you beyond your diagnosis? You were diagnosed with systemic lupus. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tanisha, and beyond plus, I am a mother, a wife, a daughter, sister, and what else am I? I I would like call myself a writer because I write a lot about how I feel and what I go through. That's what I do on my quiet times. I try to write, and I like to read as well to keep my mind at bay and at peace, because being a mother with lupus, it's not easy, because you have to sometimes put aside how you feel to pay attention to your little one, because they need you, but you also need you. So it becomes a challenge, because how am I supposed to not stress when they are not okay? Yeah, so that's kind of much like who I am outside of having lupus.
And I will ask you, when you hear the phrase invisible disability, what does that mean personally to you?
Personally, it means that when you look at me, you can't tell that I'm sick, I'm ill. You can't tell that some days I wake up and it's a struggle to walk. You can't look at me and just tell, okay, I can't get in the car properly, or I can't come out of the car properly. So you look at me and you just don't know, because I'm probably always smiling, always looking happy. And you just look at me and don't know.
How do you respond when people say, but you don't look sick, Tanisha?
Sometimes my responses be, I don't have to look sick to be sick. I say, yes, I might look good, but this is what the Lord is doing. He sustains and He keeps me looking well. That's what I tell people sometimes, that this is the Lord's work, not mine.
What is the hardest symptom of lupus for you that people don't see?
Pain and fatigue. They don't usually see the pains I get mostly in my hands. They don't see that, and they don't know, because it's not really something that they could actually physically see. So on a daily, sometimes it's hard to even take up my phone and type. It's hard to even sometimes take up a pen and write. So that's something that they don't see. And the fatigue where my entire body feels like it's going to shut down, that's something that people don't see either, that I struggle with every day.
You talk about fatigue. What does fatigue really feel like just beyond being tired?
It feels to me, how I would describe it for myself is that it feels like somebody puts a block on top of you, like a full body block, and constantly pressing it down. So like when you try to raise up, it's like you're just falling right back down. Mentally, it feels the same. So it's like for me, all the fatigue, mentally, spiritually, physically, it all kind of just comes in like one large wave, and it just feels like a constant pressing, pushing down.
How do you protect your mental and emotional health while living with such a chronic condition like lupus?
I pray, and try to stay focused on God, and see that, okay, lupus, it is what it is, but it's not me. And I try to keep my joy in the middle of it, in the middle of all the hard moments. I try to keep my joy. And reading does that for me. Taking time outside does that for me. Looking at the sky does that for me, because it helps me to remember that as much as I'm going through what I'm going through and I'm feeling what I'm feeling, it's okay. It's okay. It's one day at a time, it's one step at a time, and I'm not alone. I may feel alone physically, but I just always try to remember that He's there with me, holding my hand and saying to me, you can do this. And that's kind of like how it just kind of goes for me.
Have you ever felt judged or misunderstood because most times your illness is invisible?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Because some people might look at me and be like, but she looking so good. She cannot be sick. But she always lying down. And it's just like, you don't know why I was lying down. You don't ask why I was lying down. And, for me, it's like to judge a person because they have limitations, but they don't look like they have limitations. It really kind of breaks your heart, especially knowing that, okay, I have this illness and I'm trying to explain to people, okay, this is how I feel. But you're looking at me and it's like, but it's not making sense. It's not corresponding. And, sometimes with any chronic illness that you can't see, you have to remember that one person will understand and another person wouldn't. And that's okay too. But fighting it and trying to go die hard, trying to tell people, but I am, it causes stress on you. And then you put yourself into a flare because you're studying persons that don't understand or choosing not to understand.
That's interesting. I will ask you, what is the one thing you wish the public truly understood about lupus?
That is not just one, it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. I could have lupus. It will affect my joints. It could affect my mind, brain, mentally. When you say you have lupus and people ask what it is, we need to sit and discuss what it is because it's very complex and people don't see that. Because today it could just be your skin, tomorrow it could be your eyes, tomorrow it could be your brain, it could be your lungs. So I think people need to understand that you have to be a little bit more empathetic and sympathetic towards those that have lupus. It may not be seen, but it is there and it is very, very real.
I like how you said that. And, I would ask you this question. And how has lupus changed the way you see yourself?
Surprisingly, it changed a whole lot because I was always shy and quiet. And somehow lupus has given me a kind of confidence that I didn't know that I had. It has allowed me to not stay quiet on my issues, and it helped me to love myself a little bit more. Strangely, it did, because now I have a better appreciation of me. I love me more, and I take time to love myself more. So it's weird that you wouldn't think that lupus would do that because of all the physical changes that I went through, but it helped me to love myself. And it brought a special confidence in me that I didn't know that I had.
And I can attest to that because you served as our youth ambassador for more than 2, 3 years, and you've done a great job advocating and representing the organization on various platforms. And we thank you for sharing your story. I want to invite Alyssa to jump back in the conversation because, Alyssa, I want to ask you. Alyssa's smiling. Alyssa, I want to ask you that same question. How has lupus changed the way you see yourself?
What has changed? Ask me that question again.
I'm asking you the question, how has lupus changed the way you see yourself?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm definitely opposite of Tanisha because I was always technically I still am. I was always bubbly, outspoken, talks too much. Always loved myself. Always had loved myself. So what changed since lupus had to be my confidence. Sometimes, it might be a 2. Sometimes it might be a 5. Sometimes I'll be like, I feel in myself today. But only more confidence, everything else, I still have faith, I still have a family, I still nothing, just the constant going clinic, change that routine, change, slowing down, change, all of that change in me. But everything else, I still have me. And you have met me when I first got diagnosed, and I sure you could see that, the
I have
light's still
seen,
there.
yes, I have
I the
seen.
light isn't dying out.
Yeah. How many years ago was this? This was like what, more than 10 plus years?
Yeah, because this year would make it like 12 years
Yes.
that I've been diagnosed. And just for information purposes, a lot of people got misdiagnosed because they have different types. And how I contacted you, I went to I went to a dermatologist first time. And she saw me and she was like, let's do a biopsy. And as soon as she mentioned that word, I went and looked up one time, and first thing was the Voice of Lupus Foundation. I was like, this local? I was like, look at this lady. Let me go meet her. Let me have a conversation, and all of that would have lifted up my spirits. Mommy, okay? Mommy choking. Hold on.
And as we pause there, yes, we met, and at the time I would have been volunteering at a church that I was attending at the time, and I was at the office, and she called me, and she met me right in San Juan in Barataria, where the church was located, and I can attest I've seen her grow in some ways that I think she is way beyond her years. I mean, she's still very young, but she has grown so much in so many ways. We do have some dialogue and some conversations here on the Facebook. We have a lupus patient saying, I hate when she's just adding to the conversation. And she's saying that she hates when she has to go for her disability check because they will always ask if it's for someone. That's Nicole. She's like, they will always ask, is it for you or is it that you're collecting it for someone else? And she has she said she's tried to get them to put it in her account, but she has to continue using the check. And she sees it in their eyes like, why am I collecting this because you don't look sick? She said when she was hospitalized and lost weight and her feet were swollen, nobody questioned if she was sick because you could have physically seen that she was ill. She also talked about losing hair, affecting her kidneys being affected, and she felt like a burden when she could not walk. But she thanked God now that she's getting back to being somewhat of herself. We thank God for that. I want to switch the conversation now to bring in Vindra. Vindra, thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right. So, Vindra, we have had this conversation before. And first of all, walk us through your diagnosis. Now, it has been very challenging for you because at first they thought it was lupus, then it was other things. What was the official diagnosis? It's an autoimmune disease, right?
Well, they say it's a neuroimmune disease, a neuroimmune illness.
Right.
Neuroimmune illness. So it affects
Your
basically
brain.
similar to lupus, everything in your body, your nervous system, neuromuscular system, your immune system. And once those things are affected, pretty much everything in your body is affected.
Wow. So
Yeah.
talk about the diagnosis. What was that like for you? And what were your symptoms? Let us start from the beginning. What were your symptoms?
Well, if I go back to the earliest part where I would have started having medical type symptoms, I would have been having like a lot of pain in my lower spine, like severe back pain. It is possible it could have been triggered based on like some a relatively minor accident where it hit your spine, hit my spine, or other things possibly in the environment, maybe a sort of infection that wasn't too severe to go to the hospital with. But it progressed a lot over time. And I say over time because it started way back in, I remember the exact year now, I would say 2009, 2010. And like every few years, it would just keep, it will stay and it will get worse. It'll keep progressing to the extent a few years later. And I've been going to doctors since then, but they would just do some general standard blood tests and say, well, your blood tests look okay, your CBC look okay, your blood count look okay. Then it would get to the extent a few years later where we having like numbness, tingling in toes and feet. I would have problems walking. I would have problems doing my normal exercise and physical activities. So where before I would be working, I mean, this would have been in my early 20s. So I used to be working 12 hours, 14 hours a day, loving what I've been doing, exercising, socializing, going out. And it just became more and more impossible to keep track of these things and keep doing these things. So some things would have to give. I might have to cut down on socializing. I might have to cut down on driving over time. I'd have to end up losing, depending how bad it is, a few days work here and there scattered. There are a lot of other symptoms, like the brain fog is one of the symptoms that's very difficult to describe to somebody who's never experienced it. It's basically like your brain, to me, sometimes like your brain on fire and nobody else sees it. You and all those see it, but you feel like your brain is on fire with a fever and you can't concentrate properly. You can't see properly. You might be trying to read anything and your eyes seeing the words, but the words not reaching into your brain. So that is one of the very difficult symptoms to deal with. And when that happens, I will have problems with almost anything. So if I have to have a conversation with somebody, it's a problem. Moving around can become a problem. Um, Trying to even ask for help or ask questions can become a problem, depending on the severity of the brain fog. And I've been having those symptoms for probably about more than 10 years now to varying extents. I mean, sometimes one of the challenge too is when a few minutes you do experience these symptoms, you might wonder if it's like, if all gone and if you're cured or you're healed, and then after a few, maybe a couple hours or the next day, it has come back. So it's a real challenge with the variability with it too.
Mhm. Have there been moments when you wanted to give up? What brought you through?
Yeah, there have been many moments like that. I mean, sometimes as I can say as recent as yesterday and thing, but is it took a few years good to really try to get to a state, especially to come to terms with what's going on. Reaching out to organizations like Voice of the Lupus was one of the great opportunities that I was glad to be able to be welcomed into a group where you could actually have discussions on these things and let people know that, wait, other people experience these symptoms too. It's not just me alone. Like you're not no longer alone. I would have to say too that having some sort of spiritual foundation helps a lot. It depends on the person, but to me, it helps a lot because it just gives you something to hold on to rather than just the present knowledge, because there are a lot of limitations with the medical system, with societies, what they could provide, when they could provide it. Being able to talk to someone, it is internal to yourself or some spiritual being or entity, if you want to say that. Because
Mhm.
sometimes, basically, sometimes you can't get help and you need to try to ground yourself and say, it's like, well, okay, I can't get help right now. Try to talk yourself through it. I'll be able to get help a little later on. I might be able to get up and get food later on or something like that. So, and you need that too, even sometimes because sometimes it could be real bad when you, as I say, you can't get help for yourself and there's nobody to help you at that moment in time.
I'm glad you talk about that, because not many patients, zero in on the days when sometimes you're just so ill you can't get off the bed, and especially if you live alone and you have to depend on yourself for a meal or what have you. That it brings me to this question: what kind of support really makes the big difference? Tell me.
Well, I would say, I mean, any support can make a big difference, huh? But there are I would say the support, basically the day-to-day support, knowing that there are people you can reach out to. I would even go as far as to say as knowing that you would have meals that you have. I mean, I had to go back to basically basic principles: running water, food, clothing, these kind of things. It seem trivial to some people, but when you can't
That is that
when
is that
you
is really
when you
interesting.
can't move around, you need to get these things, and you mightn't be able to be in a position to get it. So if there are people that could help you, a caregiver that would be with you, or somebody, neighbors that you could call on, or family members, even somebody that could come across to help you, those things are very, very important in situations like that.
Yeah.
And people who understand, especially.
You talked about having faith and what have you. My question to you would be, how has your faith, hope, or inner strength changed through this journey?
I would have to say it has increased. I mean, I would have had a spiritual background from, I mean, childhood, primary school, secondary school, and from family. But it is real when you're faced with challenges that you yourself can't overcome, or the systems that you were, I mean, I would say totally depend on, can't overcome. You need to find somewhere else to put that faith and get that strength and hold on to that strength too. So you might end up going back and reviewing different religious texts, different religious groups, doing over studies and reading over verses or chapters, and it will speak to you differently now than how you might have read it maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when you was in school.
Hmm. What gives you the strength to keep going on those difficult days?
I would say, knowing that I have a purpose, that I was here to have some sort of purpose and some kind of contribution. I might not know necessarily what it is exactly, but that we're here for a purpose to keep going.
We're kind of doing this wrong side, but who is Vindra outside of his diagnosis?
Well, I would say apart from my diagnosis, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, I'm I'm employed thankfully and gratefully. I'm a member of other societies in the country. I work with other people on a professional level. I mean, up to today, I will be talking to people professionally in the US, in Canada, in Australia, about trying to make things better for people in different ways in terms of advancing humanity, advancing society, and well, everything for us.
I like that, brother. Thank you. My last question to you, well, I actually have two more. The second to last question. What fears did you face that no one prepared you for?
Well, I could give two. One of them is being able to have battles in your body that no one else sees, like especially in your mind, and then that basically sometimes no one could be coming to help you, basically. Yeah. Depending on how your systems are, you go outside for help, especially as we're talking about invisible illnesses. You don't look like you have a disability necessarily, because generally, if somebody see me for a few minutes outside, they could be like, well, he good, nothing wrong with he looking healthy, he looking strong. But if something happens and I have symptom flares outside, I have to basically depend on the empathy of people around, and they would do it based on how I appear to them, essentially. Yeah, so those are some big challenges that
Was
I
there
wasn't really prepared to face. Yeah.
was there any time, because I know you're academically inclined, you're a professional. Was there any point in your journey where you questioned, oh my God, am I going to lose my livelihood? Am I going to end up on disability? Were you scared of losing your job, your career? What was that like for you? Were your employers understanding that you said you were ill, but you didn't always look the part?
Right. Well, I could say that that has been a reality, and to some extent it still is, especially because it's a invisible illness. And there's a lot of, I would say, stigma and prejudice, especially with invisible illnesses, because people don't necessarily see it. And there's a lot of challenges with that. Because I would say to some extent there's lack of understanding by other people, and it's a constant fight because some medical doctors would acknowledge these type of illnesses, some mightn't, some insurance companies would, some wouldn't. It's a constant battle dealing with it's like you're fighting to be recognized, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's why, awareness is not just important, but it's life-saving. I know a lot of
Correct.
patients have spoken highly of the organization being a lifeline to them to help navigate their diagnosis and even with family and even their work environments. My last question to you, if your pain could speak, what would it say today?
I think if my pain would speak, it would just keep screaming constantly. Honestly, and it's like it feels like it's asking for some sort of attention, medical attention, but somehow the capabilities right now can't address where that pain is coming from. Because it will basically be screaming for help.
Yeah. Vindra, thank you for being so brave to share from a male's perspective. It's not easy for men and it's not easy for women, but I think men have it worst because men naturally do not express themselves. And I know it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. So, Vindra, thank you for shedding a light into your world and what you battle. May not be lupus, but it's definitely a condition, a chronic one. And as you heard it for yourself, not all the time the symptoms are visible. And I want to ask Tanisha that same question.
Yes.
Tanisha, hold on a second, yeah. So if your pain could speak, what would it say today?
It would say, somebody, please, just save me, please, please, make it stop. And just like Vin said, it would like literally be screaming for help. Because sometimes you just want the pain to stop. It may not be joint pains or muscle pains. For me, it's sometimes I get a lot of headaches. And sometimes I just want to rip my head apart because it's so bad and I can't function when I have a headache. So it will say, just please, somebody help. Like to the highest, so that anybody can hear. That's what it would say.
I want to ask Sue, who's online here. Sue, you don't have to put on your camera if you don't want to, but I know we were sharing a conversation and you were telling me about, this pain that you've been living with for so many years. I'm asking you that same question. If your pain could speak, what would it say today?
Hi. I think if my pain could speak, I imagine it would be shouting, it would be screaming, as Vendra said. It would be just trying to draw attention because it is so extreme. It would do something extreme. It would say something extreme if it could speak. That is what I imagine would happen.
For those looking on and they've never met you before, who is Sue?
I am a daughter. I'm a mother of 3. a grandmother of 5, a friend, a sister. I was once a very happy, bubbly person, but I don't have that personality anymore. But yes, that is so.
When you hear the phrase invisible disability, what does that mean to you personally, living with lupus?
It means that people can't see what is happening to me. I alone know what is happening to me. I alone could feel it. People on the outside, they have no idea. They can only assume from what I tell them.
Wow.
You know, they can't see it, so they don't understand it. And some people don't care to understand it. Some people just push it aside. But it is not sometimes I don't feel it. I don't feel a fairness, you know?
Yeah.
The way the world treats you when they can't see what is happening to you is just off.
What is the hardest symptom of lupus for you that people don't see?
The fatigue and the pain. That is the hardest, because anywhere I am expected to show up. You know, even if it's to wash dishes or to tidy up, straighten up, maybe a mess that I made, you have to show up. You can't just migrate to your room and stay there and just come out like a mouse and go back. People expect you to show up. People expect you to smile. People expect you to have conversations. People expect you to move. And that is something we don't care for as much. We move as much as we could, and we don't want the extra movement, at least for me.
You talk about fatigue. What does fatigue really feel like beyond just being tired for you?
I would say it feels like trying to, from what I imagine it feels like trying to run underwater.
Yeah.
It's like you're just being pulled down or pushed down or suffocated, or is a weight, is a heaviness, is a complete lack of wanting to move, being able to move the way you want to. That fatigue, it is not normal. It's not something normal. And I wish there was a way we could draw it or describe it or something to people so that they could understand, because it's not my friend's tiredness. She can't compare her tiredness to mine. It's not the same thing. It is much more extreme.
What is the one thing you wish the public truly understood about lupus?
That they need to understand. They need to be a little more empathetic. People out there don't know much about these invisible illnesses, and they tend to expect that, you know, they feel we're faking, you know, we're not, yeah, you're not sick. You don't look sick. I remember when I first got diagnosed and I went to my boss and I said, well, the doctor said that I may have lupus. And she said, you don't have lupus. I know somebody with lupus, and that person's sick. And I am in all this pain and now getting this diagnosis. And I was blown away by that statement. And it's not the first time I heard it. Somebody else did that to me too and said, well, no, I have a friend with lupus. No, she's always in the hospital. You don't have lupus. And I was like, okay, so I don't have lupus. Well, I have something. I have something that is just making me feel this way and making me sick. Makes you want to just hide from people, you know. to just stay away.
It brings me to that question. How did you respond when people said to you, but you don't look sick?
I just say, okay, I don't look sick, but you don't know what's happening inside. I know. I tend to dismiss people who say those things to me. I'm not going to argue and try to explain because I would have done that before. If you find I don't look sick, well, that's okay with me. I feel sick. I feel sick. So I could look however I feel sick. So I just dismiss you, I brush you off.
Have you ever struggled with feeling like your life was on pause?
Yes, all the time. All the time. And more so, like, I believe the older I get and the sicker I feel, the more depressed I feel because my life is not on pause anymore, just stop because there's so much that I cannot do.
Yeah. In that place where you shared so openly that you would have battled with depression and stuff like that. Now, how do you protect your mental health and emotional health while living with this chronic illness, especially one that is invisible?
I started doing things that made me happy, things that I felt was comfortable for me. I just love my own space and I spend more time in my own space now, doing little things, crossword puzzles, you know, Bible studies, doing things that I like in my space. I tend to, if I want to go and hang out with friends, it has to be something that I would look forward to. Nobody getting to take me anywhere where I feel I would be, bored or no, this has to be about me for a little while. So I stopped. You have to do that to protect your mental health,
Yes.
because I have struggled with depression for so many years and I'm still taking medication for depression. And I have to focus on me because this is about me getting older. When I was younger, lupus was easier to manage. Now, I don't want to get up and change clothes and put on makeup, and those things are hard. I don't know how you all do it to look so pretty, but it's hard. I find if the minute you say, okay, let's go, I think of getting dressed, ironing clothes, putting on, doing my hair. No, I just want to be me. I want to do what is good for me, go where is good for me, and enjoy my space.
I can agree. My last question to you would be, what lessons has lupus taught you about yourself?
Lucas taught me that I was strong, stronger than how I thought I was.
Yeah.
I realized that fighting this battle for as long as I've been fighting it, which isn't very long, but from where I came from, living with domestic violence and all of that, where I felt I was weak and helpless, this gave me a new perspective on myself. If I could handle this, I could handle anything. And although I am still not much of a people person, I am more vocal now. I want to, especially when it comes to my illness.
Yes.
I share, I spread awareness. I don't care who gets bored by it because I know that I have some family members who say, my God, you're always posting up such negativity. Everything is lupus, lupus. as my status is. You don't want to look just scroll past. You understand? I have to raise awareness because there are a lot of people out there, especially young people coming up, who may eventually get this and not know that, they don't know the symptoms, they're not familiar with the symptoms. We have to spread awareness. So that is what I intend to do.
And I just want to say thank you so much. You have served as one of our moderators as well as an ambassador for the organization. And I know that there's such a big commitment on your end, on your heart, to do what you can to help raise awareness and to spread the work that we do. And those that are looking on, the organization has been through the hills and the valleys, but there have been a handful of people who have really stood by us. Susan is one, as well as Tanisha, Alyssa, Vindra. I also see Diane is on the line. Diane, are you willing to unmute and just jump in the conversation to share a little bit about your experience living with lupus? We're talking about the face of invisible disability. Today, we are observing a very big thing, and most people think that disability is about persons who bound to a wheelchair or what have you. It's International Day of Persons with Disabilities, but here at the Voice of Lupus Foundation, we continue to advocate that not all disabilities are visible. So, Diane, would you like to just share a few thoughts on you living with this and how has it been for you? First of all, for those who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself. Who are you outside of being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my dear Reeanna.
Hi.
I am Diane Boodoo. I am child of God. Sorry, first and foremost, I am a child of God. I am my mommy's daughter. I am in charge of a school of 160 children. I am living with lupus, and I am proud to say that I am standing tall. God is awesome. So I have been through a lot. Everybody's story is different, and the lupus has been a journey. When I was first diagnosed, and I reached out to a family member when I was told that I was diagnosed. To begin with, the doctor said to me, "Well, it's not cancer you have, so what you reacting like that for?" So he immediately dismissed the feelings that you would have being diagnosed with such a big sickness. He was like, "It's not cancer, so calm yourself." And then when I reached out to my family member, it's like, "How you want to go? You want to bury or burn?"
My God.
Immediately, I just heard about it, and that was the response. But through all the other subsequent attacks, and it was used against me in work, it has been a journey. But God has been awesome. So my journey has been one of faith. He has brought me through everything I have faced, every difficulty. Doctors telling me nothing is wrong with you and your drug seeking and stuff like that in the hospitals, everything. And you, Reeanna, have been an amazing source of strength. Just seeing how you have come through your own struggles, you have been a beacon as well. And by letting us hear other stories from other persons and how they deal with things, you don't feel so alone. So one of my issues, I have always had insecurities, and listening to other people go through what they go through, realizing that you're not alone, realizing that there are people willing to reach out to you. There are people who are going through their own struggles who are willing to help and talk, and it has, this Lupus Foundation has been a great help. It has been. A lot of you have said everything that I would want to say, but it's just awesome to be a part of this. I forgot actually, Reeanna, how I made contact with you, but it has always been a blessing to be a part of this and to know you and the persons that you have in this group.
Well,
Thank
you
you.
forgot, but I didn't forget. So this was a couple of years. Well, this was during the pandemic, when the world grounded to a halt. The Voice of Lupus Foundation, like some other nonprofits in Trinidad and Tobago, we were at the center of one lobbying for hydroxychloroquine to be available to our patients, ensuring that we did acquire a supply of hydroxychloroquine. And we were also feeding those most vulnerable within our community. And you would have reached out and said, hey, I want to donate some hampers. Can I bring it to the office? And that is how we met. You actually came down here with a friend, and you were trekking from quite a bit of a distance. You were coming from all the way deep, 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 deep down in the east. Well, I should say up in the east. And it was in the night, but you didn't care. You said, I know I have to do this, and I just wanted to do this, and I needed to come, and what have you. And when I first met, I didn't even believe that you had lupus, because you did not look it. And I'm saying this as a lupus patient, as an advocate. You were just so sprightly, so happy, bubbly, and just not consumed by what your reality would have been at that time. So I know that you would have felt judged and misunderstood before. So I want to ask you, how have you dealt with being judged or misunderstood because your illness is invisible?
That has been a real huge struggle. That was one of the main struggles that I have had. I heard somewhere when I was younger that the devil attacks your weaknesses. My self-esteem was and with the lupus and the attacks I was getting because of it, and the pain and being literally told that I was a burden, it affected me greatly in terms of everyday living. It was terrible. But God, my experience is just a matter of God literally tying me with a rope and bringing me through. He brought me through, and so I am able to stand tall. It is still a struggle. It hasn't gone away. Every day is a new struggle. But the person that I read a post that you put, and I can relate, not the same story, but I can look back on the girl that I was, and I thank her for all that she did. But the person that I am now, I am thankful to God. That post touched me, Reeanna. That was
Yeah, it was what I had to live and go through. And I think for the first time in my life, I can look back and not have a pity party. I mean, I think back in the day, I would have been so much more than what I thought I am now. But really and truly, I had it back to front. I am more now, so much more than what I was. And it
yeah.
really is because of the grace of God on my life. And as you said, He wrapped a rope around me and He pulled me through it. And I'm so happy that your faith and your belief in God has really brought you through some of the darkest moments of your life.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is the one thing you wish the public truly understood about this condition?
That we are not looking for a pity party. We are not looking for people to be sorry for us or say that we are looking for their sympathy. We are struggling. We are standing as best as we can. We are not, it's not as though we asked to be diagnosed with lupus. We didn't ask for this. We are doing our best. But in my experience and in other persons that I've spoken to, sometimes they look at you as, you're always sick. You're making this illness as though it's your prop and stuff. Understand it's not something we can control. This is not something we decided to have. Understand what the illness entails, and just understand what it, learn and understand what people are going through. That's all.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
My last question. If your pain could speak, what would it say today?
I agree with I forgot his name, Benjura, I think it was.
Yeah.
It would be screaming. It would be screaming because it would be screaming. I agree with them what they said. It's the
Yeah.
same. I'm sorry.
It'd be screaming, what the France is going on here?
Yep.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you.
You
Thank you
too.
to all of you. Sue, Tanisha, Vindra, Alyssa, you, Diane, thank you so much for, just being so transparent and just sharing your heart and what it is like for you living with this condition. So we will bring the curtains down now, but as we prepare to close today's conversation, I want us to pause pause not just to clap, but really to reflect. What you've heard today was not weakness. What you heard today was definitely not defeat. What you heard today was survival. It was courage that wakes up even when the body is tired. It was faith that continues even when the future seems uncertain. It was strength that refuses to be erased. And today, we say clearly not all disabilities are visible, but every life is valuable, every voice is important, and every battle deserves respect. To our incredible panelists, all those who shared their story, you did not just share stories, you shared light. You reminded us that autoimmune diseases, lupus, and other conditions are very much real. Invisible illness is real, and resilience is powerful. So, to every person listening or watching who's living with chronic illnesses, you are not alone. To the caregivers, the families, and loved ones, we pause to say thank you for standing in the gap. And to our wider community, remember this: be patient, please. Be patient with people you don't understand yet. Be gentle with battles you cannot see. And please be kind, because kindness heals in ways medicine does not. So, on behalf of the Voice of Lupus Foundation, we thank you for standing with us today, not just to observe disability, but to honor humanity. Let us leave here committed not just to awareness, but to action, inclusion, compassion, and advocacy. Because change happens not when people are seen, but when they are indeed understood. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Have a good night. Yay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so very much. I'm going to end the recording.